Joining us now, Congressman Dan Bishop from North Carolina, also a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Delighted to be with you, Bianca and John.
Congressman, we just want to acknowledge that your governor, Roy Cooper, says 5 people have died in North Carolina as a result of Hurricane Ian. Also, according to the latest stats from Duke Energy, thousands of North Carolinians are still without power. Just wanted to get an update from you on how North Carolinians are doing recovering from this storm. It was a multi-state affair.
Yeah, Florida, I think, is where everyone's focus is. The damage was the worst there. North Carolina, we had some localized flooding, but we emerged relatively unscathed. We did have those 5 deaths, and we regret and mourn every one of them. But it was a doozy of a storm, and there's a lot of work to be done.
There's something else we wanted to ask you about yesterday too. When President Biden was in in Puerto Rico, he mentioned his, I guess, background in Delaware and the Puerto Rican community here. We wanted to play this clip. Take a listen.
So I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home politically. And so we came here for a long time, both for business and pleasure.
You know, Congressman, I was struck by the First Lady in the background. Her arms kind of came open like she wanted to throw them around Joe Biden to protect him, to keep him from saying anything else. She looks down. She's concerned there. But we see this type of thing every day. Are you at all optimistic that President Biden can visit Florida tomorrow, not make this about himself, not make it political, and actually show the nation that a Democratic president and a Republican governor can come together for the benefit of the people?
You know, honestly, Biden's approach to things like this is so regrettable. Even the decision to sort of go to Puerto Rico first has political overtones. His comments there reinforce his unfortunate image as a purely political animal, where and it's kind of pathetic too. But most of all, that divides Americans one against the other at the worst time possible. But he suggests he was raised by Puerto Ricans. He said the thing the other day about Jackie Walorski. It's just a pathetic scene. Florida is the focal point in the minds of all Americans for the damage that's being. And we, of course, are concerned about Puerto Rico as well. But I certainly think the best thing the president can do is go to Florida, leave that the furthest from his mind. He doesn't need to talk about how Ron DeSantis is complimenting him as he just did in your clip. Mm-hmm. Just be normal.
Yeah, put the people first. Another topic, right. Congressman, we'd love to get your take on is the Supreme Court hearing 2 gerrymandering-related cases in this new term that just kicked off yesterday. Could give politicians a bit more power in determining how people vote. The Washington Post is claiming Republicans would have the authority to redraw districts and rewrite the voting rules. The New York Times, for what it's worth, is adding this, that the case North Carolina Moore v. Harper is likely to raise a once fringe legal doctrine that has gained traction on the right since the 2020 presidential election. The New York Times saying the Supreme Court's decision could drastically alter the balance of power in federal elections. A partisan miasma hangs over the case, given that Republicans control the legislatures in many swing states. Obviously, your take on how the media is reporting this, but also
through the lens of the New York Times and the Washington Post. I mean, if Republicans can do this, Democrats could do it as well. But this is an important case, Congressman, that originates in North Carolina. So tell us what your read on it is.
It is an extremely important case, but as you suspect, the New York Times and the Washington Post are not giving you the straight scoop. In fact, even the phrase they use, that it's testing the independent state legislature theory, that's sort of a subtle smear. What it does is it goes to this issue that the United States Constitution says that the time, place, and manner for regulating elections will be determined in the states, quote, by the legislatures thereof. And so what this case stands for is in North Carolina, we have a sharply partisan majority on the court. The 4 Democrats, 3 Republicans, the 4 Democrats struck the legislature's plans down entirely, and they didn't do it based on some discrete language in our state constitution. They just did it on their policy preference grounds. They had no such language. And so what 3 of the justices said in a preliminary step here was, the question is the extent of a court's power to strike down legislatures' decisions about districting. And this is very important. It is fundamental to our democracy that the Constitution be honored as it's written, that legislatures make those decisions. If there's a constitutional violation, a real erosion or treading upon some rule set forth in a state constitution, then of course courts can require them to be changed. But the court can't do what they did in North Carolina, which is just completely strip the legislature of their authority for their policy preferences and then have courts draw the maps.
Yeah.
It's just not the way it works.
It's different from state to state. Sometimes judges are elected or recalled, but of course it is the legislatures who are more directly answerable to their constituents and why these things have got to be decided in a state legislature. Regardless of they're Democrat or Republican, it is the responsibility of the states and the legislatures there. And great to see you, Congressman Dan Bishop from North Carolina. We appreciate it.
Yes, I'm wishing you well with that cleanup
you,
in your state for your folks impacted. Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much.